Well, my name is Rosemarie Johansson Hasratian. I live in Ogden my whole life, and I got married at 18. And like I was saying to you, everything was good and wonderful, but my husband came from a culture where men dominated. And he moved here when he was 14, and so he was kind of on his own for a lot of years. And his culture, the older brother is very dominant, and so there was always a huge influence with the brother, and what the brother thought and did, and so there was always this. There's always this struggle of how I felt like things should be between us without having the influence of his brother on us. But in the beginning it was good, and then as the years went on, I could feel that there was going to be a real difficult time with the religion. In the beginning it was fine because I found out that he had been baptized. And I thought, well, that's a good start, and so we'd go to church together and everything was good. And I felt like there would be a time where we would possibly, work toward the temple marriage, because he said that was something that he would want to work toward too. So we got married civilly, and my hopes and dreams was just to be, sealed and married in the temple someday. But as our married life proceeded, it became very evident he had no desire of being part of the church. And part of his desire was his influence from his family and from his brother especially. His brother was very anti-Mormon, and he influenced him drastically in that way. But as I started having children, he went to my oldest daughter's blessing when we had her blessed, and he actually got him for his testimony. It was really precious. And then after that, he did not participate in the next two boys that I had in their blessing at all. He didn't come to the church. He didn't want anything to do with it. And so that was a real struggle time. It was a hard time in my life, and I remember that prayer and softening of his heart was the thing I prayed for all the time, because he was so anti himself, and so my relationship with my Heavenly Father became very, very strong, even though I didn't participate in church, because I knew that would cause more conflict. And so I chose just to teach my children good morals, and I got into buying children's literature a lot, because I felt like through literature I could be teaching them through a storyline and not necessarily have Joseph Smith or anything directly with the Mormon Church, but to teach them good ways of life, that they could be a good person even if they weren't a part of a particular religion. And so from then, so that was kind of my struggle there. I remember walking for hours and having tears stream down my face, because I was so sad, and I just wanted my life to be so different. And then I had my fourth child, and it was cute because we were in Salt Lake, and she was only, I don't know, she talked really early in her years, and we drove by the Salt Lake Temple, and she looked at the Salt Lake Temple, and she says, "Daddy, that's the most beautiful building I've ever seen. I want to be married there." And he's like, "You're never going to be married there. As long as I'm alive, you're never going to be." I mean, just very adamant about, not having that in our family life or anything. And, and she didn't really, she just thought it was, well, okay, but it was really interesting for her to see this beautiful building and to recognize it as something that is special and for her to want to be married there. And then when she was, I don't know, she was about, she was 3 or 4, and the primary president at that time kept dropping by our house and inviting her to primary, just my littlest one, and I thought, I says, well, can she go to primary? Would you be okay if she went to primary? And he goes, yeah, I guess it's okay. As long as they don't teach about Joseph Smith, it's fine. Well, maybe a little bit of Joseph Smith mixed in there, but I says, okay. So I ended up being her primary teacher from about 4 until she actually went into Young Women's. They just moved me up with her every year. But when she was 7, probably 7, and maybe 3 months before she turned 8 years old, she started leaving these little notes to her daddy, and she called him Poppy. She had left these little notes to her Poppy that would say, so Poppy, I want to get baptized. Will you check yes or no? And he would just kind of move them to the side, and she came home one day and it was actually checked yes. And so she was actually baptized on her birthday. The first person in my family to get baptized was this little 8-year-old little girl. And that, to me, all the struggles I had gone through, prayers are just not answered overnight. And the Lord, for whatever reason, He needs you to understand that things are just sometimes not answered overnight, but over time and me not giving up and me being resilient and wanting to teach my children a different way of life. And anyway, so we were all there as a family as she was being baptized, and every one of my kids were on the program, and it was glorious. It truly was glorious. And I remember him coming home saying, well, how's my little pioneer girl doing? Thinking that that's part of the LDS culture, which I guess it kind of is. And it was really great. And it kind of worried me at the time because I didn't know if that was going to be, if his brother was going to be influenced on that or not. But for whatever reason, it kind of like, it was his decision. So he decided to, this was his decision with his family and not to be influenced one way or another, which I was very, very grateful for. It's like, yes, thank you. Stand up for yourself, And then from then, our lives were, we were okay. We were doing okay. But as my little girl grew, she would be in more church programs, and she would invite him, and he would come to church to see her because she turned out to be, quite a pretty amazing little gal. I mean, she had a great voice, and she'd get up and sing in front of the whole congregation, and she just had a lot of really, really wonderful gifts that were given to her, and he would come. He'd come and listen to her, but so she's getting married now. She's engaged, and she wants to get married in the Salt Lake Temple. She's marrying a return missionary from Logan. And I come home I get up to go to church one morning, and because I'm very active now, since the primary times, and I just kind of thought, well, it's time for me to stay active, and as long as, it doesn't bother him, and he was fine with it. So I kind of just, did what I needed to do, and so I got up one morning, and I was getting ready to go to church, and he got up and he got all dressed up, and I'm going, so where are you going? And he goes, I'm going to church. I'm going, well, what church are you going to? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I'm going to our church. And from then on, he went to church every week. Went and did his priesthood. He went and got his he became a deacon, then he became a priest. He went through the whole thing, and that was probably maybe April or May, right around that time. And that February, we were sealed in the Manti Temple on February 14th, and it was a bittersweet because none of my children could be there, but I had my mother and my brother come, and my sister and her husband, and one other friend came. I mean, it was in the Manti Temple, so it was a distance from here, but that was a glorious day. And then after that, we went to the temple with our daughter, and she was in the Salt Lake Temple. And then since then, my other daughter, she got baptized in this county, and she got active, and they got sealed, and it's just a glorious thing. And last summer, on my birthday, my two daughters, and myself, and I used my daughter's husband, Lee, to be a proxy for my husband, and I was sealed to my two daughters. So I just backed off. I knew what would set him off, and I chose to, be very docile. I didn't want to cause the problems. Although we did have moments where, I totally disagreed with what he was saying or doing, and and it was a conflict, and there were conflicts. There were definite conflicts, and there was a lot of religious conflicts. But, I felt like my children needed to hear two sides of the story, because he was so domineering and had such a strong personality that it was hard to go toward him and to stand your ground. But I feel like, if I didn't do that to my children, I felt like it was simple. I need to stand up for what I believe in. So I did, and in the end, it worked out. But another little story that is kind of funny, because you'll really understand that it was a difficult time. My two best friends gave me the Book of Mormon, the little Book of Mormon that's got the Holy Bible, the quad type thing, and it was just a little one for my birthday. And I remember from my birthday, and I turned 40, and they gave it to me for my 40th birthday, and from that day on, I had read scriptures every single night. I mean, I don't care where I am, and if I'm too sick, I'd have my husband read to me, or I'd have my children read to me. There has been scriptures in my life every single day. It may be a page, it may be a scripture, but there's always, I go to bed with those in my heart every single night. I would hear my husband come up the stairs, and rather than have the conflict of, what are you doing? And I would hide him underneath my pillow, so I wouldn't have that problem with him, because I didn't want that additional conflict in our life. So, but I would still read him. As soon as he would disappear, I'd pull him out and read some more. Scriptures are amazing. They teach you so much. Everything you need to know is in scriptures. Everything you need to know in life is in scriptures. So it's been a blessing.